It was a freezing early morning in Toronto, January 31st, 2016. On Spadina Avenue, just south of Nassau Street, crowds gathered for late-night eats at the popular New Ho King restaurant. In only 20 seconds, the street would turn into a war zone. Gunfire erupted, leaving 2 men dead, 2 wounded, and the city in shock. The victims? 26-year-old David Eminess and 29-year-old Quinn Taylor. Both fathers, both loved, both gone in an instant. The shooter? A man named Kyle Sparks MacKinnon, one of 2 gunmen who opened fire for what the court would later call a senseless and unjustified act of violence. The night began normally. Quinn Taylor and David Eminess were out drinking with their friend Stuart Douglas, a man who, according to court records, had for many years suffered from mental disorder, specifically schizophrenia. After the bar closed near King and Dufferin, the trio decided to keep the night going. They drove toward Chinatown in search of an after-hours club. Taylor parked on Spadina Avenue, and the 3 began walking north. At the same time, a separate group of 9 men walked the same stretch of sidewalk. Among them, Kyle Sparks MacKinnon. Although none of the 3 friends knew it, at least one of the men in that group was carrying a loaded handgun. Even though it was past 3 a.m., the street was still busy. The New Ho King was completely full, the judge later recalled, and there was a lineup of people inside waiting for tables. When they reached the restaurant, Stuart Douglas asked one of the men in Sparks MacKinnon's group, "Hey, do you know where the after-hours club is?" The man replied, "No." Douglas asked again, repeating the same question. And that's when everything changed. Forensic teams soon pieced together the scene. The .40 caliber casings, found closer to the front window of the restaurant, pointed to one shooter's location. Ballistics confirmed that the bullet which killed David Eminess came from that same gun. According to the court, I am satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that Kyle Sparks MacKinnon was the shooter with the .40 caliber gun. The bullet that killed David Eminess was fired from that gun. A second weapon, a .45 caliber Glock, was also involved and linked to another gunman. The presence of 2 different caliber weapons, 2 shooters, and multiple shell casings indicated this was no accidental scuffle. It was a coordinated attack. Before he died, Quinn Taylor described one of his attackers as a light-skinned black male wearing a red sweater and a gold chain. That description matched Sparks MacKinnon exactly, and no other member of the group walking with him that night. The judge wrote, I am satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that Sparks MacKinnon fired at least one of the shots that struck Mr. Taylor. News reports at the time noted the broader significance. Police said this was a double homicide in Chinatown in the early morning hours of January 31, 2016, outside the popular New Ho King restaurant on Spadina Avenue in Toronto. The article noted 5 men were shot, 2 killed, 3 wounded. One of the wounded being the man who survived despite a bullet entering above his right eye and exiting just above his ear. That was the 3rd man, Stuart Douglas. The forensic details were stark. 16 cartridge casings in total were found at or near the front of the restaurant. 9 casings from the .45 caliber Glock, 7 from the .40 caliber gun. Ballistics records pointed strongly to MacKinnon's weapon for the deadliest shot. Forensic teams soon pieced together the scene. The .40 caliber casings, closer to the restaurant's front window, pointed to one shooter's location. Ballistics confirmed that the bullet that killed David Eminess came from that same gun. The judge wrote, I am satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that Sparks MacKinnon was the shooter with the .40 caliber gun. The bullet that killed David Eminess was fired from that gun. A second weapon, the .45 caliber Glock, was linked to another gunman, whose identity remains unclear. Before he died, Quinn Taylor described one of his attackers as a light-skinned black male wearing a red sweater and a gold chain. That description matched Sparks MacKinnon exactly, and no one else in the group. I am satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt, wrote the judge, that Sparks MacKinnon fired at least one of the shots that struck Mr. Taylor. Took nearly 3 years before the case reached trial. On November 22, 2018, both Kyle Sparks MacKinnon and Jamal Richardson were arraigned in court. They faced 5 charges: the second-degree murders of David Eminess and Quinn Taylor, the attempted murder of Stuart Douglas, and the wounding of Earl McLean and Jethro Collado. The jury heard weeks of evidence. Douglas, the surviving victim, took the stand, but his testimony was complicated. He struggled with details, and the judge later warned jurors. There are significant credibility and reliability issues with Mr. Douglas's testimony. Still, his account of being shot in the head for simply asking for directions was largely uncontested. Crown prosecutors argued that the motive may have been to eliminate witnesses, to silence Taylor and Eminess after they saw Douglas shot. But the judge rejected that theory. When the judge addressed motive, the courtroom listened closely. "I am not satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that the motive was to eliminate witnesses. The more likely explanation is that they were shot simply because they were associated with Douglas, who had irritated someone in Sparks MacKinnon's group. That sentence hangs in the air, and the implications are chilling. There was no grand plan. Instead, a night out. 3 friends looking for fun. One of them asked a question, and in seconds, 2 strangers were dead. The jury didn't get lost in speculation about motive. They focused on fact. 2 men fatally shot, 2 others wounded. 1 shot in the back of the head as he tried to escape, and the other, a talented young musician, hit 5 times as he tried to run. After 2.5 days of deliberation, the verdicts came in. Kyle Sparks MacKinnon, guilty on 4 counts, 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of wounding. He was found not guilty on the attempted murder of Stuart Douglas. Jamal Richardson, his co-accused, acquitted of all charges. Sentencing came, and the judge's remarks laid bare the human cost. Both were fathers of young daughters. Mr. Taylor was a talented musician. Mr. Eminess had come from Trinidad seeking a better life. Ironically, a safe place. The judge emphasized that the victims were unarmed. They posed no threat. Bearing in mind the number of shots that he fired at 2 defenseless men, and the fact that he fired 1 shot into the back of Mr. Eminess' head as he attempted to escape, I am satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that he had the specific intent to kill both victims. Under Canadian law, a conviction for second-degree murder carries a life sentence, with parole ineligibility ranging from 10 to 25 years. But the court went further, holding the defendant morally responsible not just for the killings, but for the wounding of 2 innocent bystanders. Today, Kyle Sparks MacKinnon remains behind bars, serving a life sentence. A man found guilty of 2 brutal, unprovoked murders. Justice M. Dambret described them as cold-blooded killings of 2 defenseless men, committed in public, in the midst of innocent bystanders. Words that still echo years later. The judge didn't deliver that sentence lightly. He reflected on every piece of evidence, every witness, every tear shed by the families in court, and after what he called anxious consideration, he concluded, the total period of ineligibility for parole that would be proportionate to the gravity of Mr. Sparks MacKinnon's offenses, and the extent of his moral culpability in committing them, is a period of 22 years. A lifetime behind bars before he can even apply for parole. But for the families of David Eminess and Quinn Taylor, no number of years could ever replace the lives that were lost. The second shooter, the man seen fleeing with MacKinnon that cold January night, has never been identified. Police searched. Tips came in. Leads went cold. And as time passed, his name faded into silence. But for those who knew Quinn and David, the search for peace has never truly ended. Taylor's passion for music, gone. The melodies that once filled rooms with laughter, now only memories. He was a performer, a friend, a father, someone who found meaning in every note he played. Eminess' dream of a better life in Toronto, gone. He worked hard to build something lasting, to give his family a sense of stability. He believed the city was his fresh start. Both fathers, both loved, both remembered. Their names now live on in the hearts of those who refuse to let their stories be forgotten. Every anniversary, flowers appear on the corner of Queen and Peter, small reminders of 2 men taken too soon. Now take a moment and imagine yourself on Spadina Avenue that night. The air is freezing, your breath fogging in front of you, the glow of neon lights reflecting off icy pavement. You're walking home or waiting for late-night food. maybe laughing with friends, maybe just thinking about the day that's passed. Now imagine the sudden sound of gunfire, bullets tearing through the air, screams echoing off buildings, chaos erupting where there was only calm a second ago. You freeze, your heart races, people around you scramble. For the witnesses on that street, those 20 seconds felt like an eternity. Ask yourself, how often do we walk through life thinking our surroundings are safe, that the streets we know and love are predictable, familiar? And yet, in the blink of an eye, everything can change. For David Eminess and Quinn Taylor, the city that was supposed to offer opportunity, safety, and community became the scene of a senseless tragedy. And think about justice. Kyle Sparks MacKinnon was convicted, found guilty on 4 counts, sentenced to life in prison with no parole for 22 years. But the second shooter? Never identified. Sometimes, in these cases, justice is partial. Some questions are answered, others linger indefinitely. And for the families, can we even begin to comprehend the void left behind? Fathers taken too soon, dreams unfulfilled, music silenced, lives erased in a moment of random violence. So we ask ourselves, what can we do as a community to protect one another? How do we stay vigilant yet not live in fear? These are questions the city of Toronto continues to grapple with. Questions that resonate far beyond Chinatown, far beyond that cold January morning in 2016.